Devlog, November 2021. So things didn't really happen the way I wanted to. I wanted to work on animations this month, but I ended up working on other stuff. I have still no sound. I want to work on audio, and I've worked on audio, but a lot of other stuff happened. So what I decided to do was I decided to actually start reworking the levels. I mean, not reworking the levels. The levels are still the same as they were before because I like them. But the old levels were based pre-rework before I moved everything to C++, so they are still based on the blueprint version of the game. And I now need to rework those levels so they accept the C++ files and stuff, etc. And I'm pretty much so I'm done with E1M1. I'm 80% done with E1M2, but E1M2 is literally 2-3 times as long as E1M1. It's actually a really long level. And E1M3 I've not yet started on, but E1M3 is a pretty simple level. It's still long, but it's just simple in layout. So E1M2 has a very complex layout. It's just a massive maze basically, and E1M3 is just a bit more linear, a bit more basic. So yeah, so I've just been playtesting these levels, getting everything back in, and just writing down what's missing. So everything that I noticed while playtesting, so bugs or missing stuff. I've called it bugs, but also just missing stuff. So here in game logic, I have no blood splatters on walls. I still need to like add that back in. No proper physics object interaction with pawn movement. This is actually a pretty big one, and it's gonna require a bunch of coding. Game logic support for AI voice box. This is technically half done. Singularity grenade is currently unfinished. Like so, this was just stuff that I notice while playtesting that needs to be fixed. So I'm just making all these files with AI bugs, animation bugs, game logic, missing props, etc. And if I can just systematically go through all of these files, fix everything that needs to be done, and get everything done, then I will have a complete demo. And that's basically what I'm currently aiming towards. Just play test and get all the things that are missing in the game. That's the goal. Now, one good thing during playtesting that I have noticed is that the performance is greatly improved, which was the main reason why I switched to C++ instead of the Blueprint virtual machine. The performance is, I mean, always stays above 60. And that's inside of the editor. I have not yet fully compiled and packaged the project and played it as a standalone game. Usually the frame rate is then like 50 to 100% higher. So if I can get 120 frames per second on a packaged project on my machine, then I'm pretty happy. So yeah, the performance, I mean, the truly ancient blueprint based enemies that I had, which was like 2 years ago now, I ran at like 20 FPS in the editor if there were like more than 10 enemies on screen. Now I can have like 20 to 25 enemies on screen and it runs at 60. And if there are no enemies, it runs at 120 constant. Which isn't a surprise. That is still not good. I even wrote it down during my optimization. So there are a bunch of optimizations I need to do. So the biggest GPU user are dynamic light sources. I completely use dynamic light sources because I literally can't use static. I can't use static lights because of the way I've based my geometry objects. My geometry objects use what's it called? Use a trim texture workflow, which means their textures, their UV mapping goes outside of the bounds of the UV, which means I can't bake lighting for them. So I can't use static lights. Which is fine because dynamic lights are way more fun and interesting than static lights. But yeah, that's something I need to look into. Entities are the biggest CPU users. This is because of Blueprint virtual machine calls. I need to get rid of Blueprint virtual machine calls in entities. Input needs to be C++ based. Right now, there actually is pretty bad input lag during testing. Now, that's partly because I'm in the editor, but I'm pretty sure that's also because of the Blueprint virtual machine. So if I go to my player, edit player, my inputs are currently handled. No, I need to go to parents and then go to entity parents and then go to event graph. So this is all visual, so damage is handled C++. This is just the visual stuff. Where is it? Oh yeah, rectal impacts are still. Oh, for fuck's sake! Completely forgot. Game logic. Rectal effects are missing. Sound and splatter. Well, one more for the list. Okay. This is not connected. And I also want to do it C++ based, not blueprint based. Okay, the mouse input. Mouse input is currently handled via blueprints, which is bad. Blueprints are slow. They have a massive lag. Bad. This needs to be moved to C++. And this goes for absolutely everything. All of these input actions need to be down to C++ to reduce input lag. So yeah. So that's basically just how I work. I just go through the list and just fix stuff one by one. Now, let's just talk about what else to talk about. Oh yeah, audio. So the way I handle audio is I have an audio component. Escape on audio component. So I just have an escape on audio component. I said this, I think 2 devlogs ago, that I wanted to use more because the pawn class was getting kind of ridiculous. I've been moving code from this pawn class into components, so not everything is in one giant header file, which is just amazing. So I've just added, basically I've added the logic for a audio pawn. This is just an, oh my god, bro. This is an audio component that handles the audio for the entities. So it will be attached to an entity dynamically during play. And it will be, so if I go to my player, go to escape pawn audio, setup, I have a pawn audio component class. I currently have escape pawn audio. So if I go there, escape pawn audio, this is my audio class. Now it is a blueprint, but it's just a blueprint to set up variables. This is all ran in C++. Everything I do now is in C++, even effects and audio. I set a bunch of devlogs code that I still do sound and audio in blueprints, no more. I will do everything in C++ because every call to the blueprint virtual machine is one too many and it just costs too much performance to do. It's more efficient to do 1,000 for loop in C++ than it is to do a single call to the blueprint virtual machine. It's bad. So I just have the audio, so idle sounds, spot sounds, spawn sounds, hurt sounds, movement sounds. So movement sounds is just footsteps, which is so I've done this in a really clever way. I guess I'll explain this. So the way footsteps work is I have this variable that I set up in my audio component of footsteps. Now I also have footsteps for different materials. So if I go to extra audio, I can go to movement dirt sounds, movement wood sounds, movement metal sounds. So these are footsteps on metal surfaces. These are footsteps on dirt surfaces. Now, the way it works is genius. So when I go to my animations, I go to human animations, I go to locomotion, and I go to human run 600 centimeters per second. I have these SK animation notify movements. So what SK animation, this is a C++ class. So I now know, I've learned how to use animation notifies properly. So this is just a C++ class that I've made. And what that C++ class does is it gets the owner of the skeleton, which is of course the pawn. And it then sends a message to the audio components of like, hey, this character wants to make, oh shit, this character wants to make a movement sound. So it then goes to, okay, you want to make a movement sound. So let's go to escape pawn audio component to pawn audio call, go to definition. So it then calls this function through the pawn. which is of course done via an interface because Uncle Bob said so. We can go to the pawn audio call. We then have a pod type. Pod type just means pawn audio type, so that's just a pod audio type, I guess. Just like rip in pieces. Pod audio type, so pod def, pod full, pod hurt. So if pod def, then make a def sound. If it's pod full, then make a full sound. Now we want to make a movement sound, so it will call dot movement. So local sound array is movement sounds. But if we use surface-based footsteps, then go to then set surface sounds, go to definition, check, and then we check what surface we're on, and then we use movement dirt sounds, movement metal sounds, and movement wood sounds. So in order to set this up for any entity, I just need to add a sound to the movement sounds, then go to the animation and add an SK animation notify movements, and it works. I don't have to do anything more. It will just work, which is great. Another thing I've done is SK animate. I'm going too fast. So if I go to locomotion, no, go to the bot. So I've also started spawning effects and sounds from the animations themselves, which is just a really handy way of doing things, and I just don't understand why I haven't been doing this from the beginning. So if I go to Cupid Walk, again, I have the SK animation notify movement. That's when the feet touches the ground. So I want to make a sound that impacts the ground. But I also have robot gear. So robot gear is just an audio call. This is just a pre-made stuff from Unreal. So I can just add an audio, and I don't have to do any coding. I don't have to do any syncing. Unreal does it for me. And I should have been doing this from the start. And this runs completely on C++, so great for performance. So yeah, you can also spawn effects. So if I go to my PDW animation, so weapons, personal defense weapon, shot. So here I have a call for the casing. So when the bolt comes back, it shits out the casing. Again, I used to do this via blueprints where I painfully called a spawner system, get the weapon mesh bone that I want to spawn the casing from, and then set up the variables. This just does it for me. I should have been using this from the start, but whatever, better late than never. So yeah, this is removing every time when I move stuff like this to the animations themselves instead of trying to painstakingly sync it with coding. It just saves a lot of headache. So yeah, that's pretty much just all I have to say. This devlog, oh yeah, and I've remade the fancy effects for the pickups, but I don't really have much more to say. I'm just working hard to getting all of these points done. That's just what I'm working for. I hope that by the new year I can show actual audio working for the characters, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of it's a bit of a weird devlog, but just I didn't really have anything I wanted to say specifically, just where I'm at right now. So yeah, that's it.